Nowadays, people are like, okay, do you know any telephone numbers, or do you just pick up your phone and like dial what's in your contact list, or do you visit a website and click that number? And most people realize, the telephone number nowadays with the smartphones isn't as important as it was back in the day.
Hello, and welcome to this episode of the Ask Valor Masterminds podcast, brought to you by A Advanced Services and Fuse Networks. My name's Galen.
I'm Joe.
We're coming at you virtually from the Creative Block Studios in Seattle, Washington. So, Joe, before we introduce our guests, can you tell everyone how our podcast started, please?
Sure. So it first started out as a private Facebook group page, and the purpose was to bring on different business owners together to kind of just communicate, talk with one another, share tips, and just help each other out in business. Because we're a marketing company, we get a lot of questions asked outside of marketing. So selfishly, we created a podcast so we could bring on different guest speakers to talk about relevant topics related for businesses or entrepreneurs or wannabe entrepreneurs to help them in their business grow both in their business and professionally.
All right. And who do we have joining us today, Joe?
Absolutely. So today I'm super excited to have the CEO of WhatConverts, and it's Michael Cooney.
Awesome. And today's topic is why tracking leads determines ROI. There's a lot of marketing mumbo jumbo. We're going to hopefully kind of break it down into kind of basic terms. But let's formally introduce Michael. Michael Cooney is the visionary co-founder behind WhatConverts, a dynamic SaaS company, software as a service, on a mission to revolutionize the way we understand and evaluate marketing ROI. Throughout his 25-year marketing career, Michael has undertaken a remarkable journey, collaborating with countless agencies and serving thousands of clients.
His relentless pursuit of a solution for the intricate challenge of proving marketing's true value has culminated into WhatConverts, a game-changing lead tracking platform that simplifies the complexities of an ever-evolving marketing landscape. With Michael at the helm, WhatConverts isn't just a company. It's a pioneering force reshaping the marketing industry. Join him as he shares his valuable insights and expertise on the relentless quest to prove and grow marketing ROI. Michael, thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me, guys.
Yes, sir. All right. So before we get the podcast started, we like to get to know our guests a little bit more, introduce them to our audience. So we ask a couple questions. I'll ask the first one. So, Michael, what are some early lessons learned as an entrepreneur?
Well, if I knew what I was going to go through, I wouldn't have started. No, it's just at the end of the day, you got to be able to solve problems for somebody. If you can solve a problem for somebody, they'll pay you for it. And it's just understanding the value that solving that problem is worth is pretty key. If you can really understand that, you'll never go hungry, and you can be very successful.
Nice. So being for all the years that you've been in business, what's been the best piece of advice that you've been given?
I was thinking about this, but I think when I look back over all the things, it's not the big sprints that make a big difference in your career. It's just every day getting up and doing a little bit. It's like, one brick at a time to build a wall. Don't try to run into a wall one day. Just take your time, build, and just make sure every day. And there's a story about the South African cricket team. I'm from South Africa, and they weren't doing so well in the World Cup, and a new coach came in and he said, look, what we're going to do is we're going to take 100 things and just do them 1% better. So your diet, your exercise, how you get ready for a game or something. At the end of it, after the 2 years of this training, they were the world champions. So it's just, it's that little daily process. Just keep moving forward every day. It's probably the best piece of advice.
Awesome. So since this is a marketing podcast, why is marketing important?
Well, I mean, it's kind of like if you've got a great product and nobody knows about it, you're going to struggle to, sell. So, and it's an interesting thing. Sometimes, even with the software world, there's something called product-led growth, where people don't think you need marketing. Just give somebody a free trial and then they'll do it and use it. But if you can get the marketing right, it can just exponentially increase how you do. So there's people out there who run successful businesses on word of mouth. But if you do marketing, and like ourselves with WhatConverts, starting out, we used it with people we knew. But then once we started marketing, it's just a multiplier. So it just allows you to do more, allows you to get seen, introduced to people. And the interesting thing is, doing marketing, you might meet somebody and that person connects you to others. So it's just a great big multiplier to more customers.
Awesome. So the real quick to our audience, can you explain in a minute what your platform, WhatConverts, does?
So what we do is, how can I say this? When I was running a marketing agency, and I'd go to clients and I'll show them results. So they pay us money and they've got marketing spend. And at the end of the day, they want to know, is the money we spend with you worth it? And that's a difficult question to answer for a lot of marketers. So essentially, after running agencies and running a publication where people paid for advertising, tracking leads, which could be a phone call, a customer phones in or a prospect phones in to make a sale or to ask for a quote or something, there's value in that. And somebody making a phone call for something could be worth $10, or it could be worth $1 million, or it could be worth $10 million. So if you don't track that properly, it's very difficult to manage your marketing and prove the value of your marketing. So that's what we do. We track the results of marketing. So if you're spending money on Google Ads and people are coming to your website and then they're making a phone call, we can track that phone call to the ad they saw, to the search that they searched, and then also get a transcription so we know what they wanted in the phone call. So that's just one phone call. We got a lot of data. We know the value of that phone call. We know how much you paid for the ad to bring that person there. And now you can imagine somebody running a campaign where they're getting 1,000 of those phone calls. It becomes pretty difficult to track it all. So our software takes all of that. We collect all that data. And then people say, well, okay, data is great, but you need tools for it. So our platform has tools to access that data. And if you say, well, let me just see the leads from this one, this one campaign, you can do that. And also we have reporting and insights. So yeah, tons of reporting. So you can see from month to month, are you growing? If a campaign all of a sudden drops, we'll show you which ones. You can identify it quickly. If you want to know, like for instance, your car dealership, and you want to know, okay, out of these 1,000 calls, what was the most popular vehicle request? How many did we sell the most of? What color was the most popular? So all these questions business owners have, we can answer them with WhatConverts, and we can also answer what marketing and how much spend did I spend to get those opportunities. So there's a lot of things going on there, but ultimately we describe ourselves as a lead tracking platform. So we're capturing your marketing data and the lead, and we enrich that data to give you, the business value of your marketing.
Perfect.
All right. So, which leads us to a good transition. Our advanced services pump you up quote of the day. So I asked Michael for a quote, and I'll read it, and then another thing, and then we'll get his thought. So, a confused mind never buys. So all these data points, which we'll get into today, will help kind of unlock some of those things. And then, is your path to success clear or confusing? When prospects are stalling a purchase, I try to understand what success looks like. Then create a path that's easy for them to walk down. So this journey of WhatConverts and doing it for people that you knew, then growing into, things for agencies and businesses out there. Give us some insight on a confused mind never buys. I'm trying to simplify that path.
Yeah. So there was a story, it was actually in one of Malcolm Gladwell's books, where they ran an experiment and they had a storefront where people walked into the store and they offered 6 different jellies or jams. In South Africa, we call it jam. In America, it's jelly. So they had 6 varieties and they tested like how many people used the different ones and how many people tried them out. And they found like, they got a lot of people using it. So then they ran the exact same experiment, but now they had 24 jams or jellies, more options. And they found like they had less people using it. They just didn't do it because they couldn't make a choice. It was difficult to know like, well, which one do I want? There's 24, there's too many. And then rather make no choice than make that choice. And when it comes to sales or even competitiveness in the market, you probably lose more sales to indecision than you do to your competitor. And so that's why I say, we've got a sales team and we do marketing, and things can get complicated. And sometimes the salespeople, they get all into the weeds and they want to sell the biggest solution. And what you need to do is you listen. You do a needs analysis. You listen to what they want, what their problems are. And then you say, I hear you. This is your problem. This is what you should do. And this is why. And the success rate on doing it that way is much higher. Because we had one company that was stalling. They were taking 8 months to make a decision. So they eventually called me in and I just listened. I heard what they're saying, heard what the hurdles were. And then I just removed the hurdles. Because they're like, well, we want to integrate with this and we want to integrate that and all that. And I'm like, guys, you're trying to implement something on step 3 when you haven't taken step 1 and 2. And they're like, oh, really? So I said, all you need to do is take step 1, join us, collect the data. Once you got the data, then you can say, okay, what's step 2? And so I just made the path clear for them. Step 1, start collecting data. Step 2, analyze the data, look at it, see what's worth, where do you want to put it? Step 3, now let's integrate that with the other systems. And all of a sudden, this confused mind where he couldn't make a decision, he saw that, signed the order that day, and they've been a great customer.
Awesome. Come to the part of our podcast, our Fuse Networks Did You Know segment. So
millions of cyber criminals are out there on a daily basis trying to steal your information. It's not a matter of if, it's when. Small businesses account for 58% of cyber attacks annually. So help your company fight cybercrime and mitigate risk by being proactive. Call Fuse Networks, your local Seattle IT experts at 206-701-6040 for a complimentary IT network and security assessment.
I had asked Michael for some myths or stats, and there were too many to name. So what I want to do, Michael, is ask maybe one or two of your favorite SEO myths that are relevant today, because there's a lot. We had a pretty engaging discussion on our discovery call and everything, but what are one or two things you see or hear out there that people are saying that are not true and they're going down the wrong path?
Yeah, there's a lot. So search engine optimization, SEO, is filled with tons of myths. And I've been doing SEO before there were SEO tools. We used to download the server logs and we would extract the query from the server logs to get the keyword data. So I've been doing this for a long time. And I've had clients, like I remember one I had in 2001. And we put in pages and we set it up. And we're now over 22, 23 years later, and we haven't changed much on their pages, and they're still ranking. And so if you listen to advice there, they say, well, you got to update your posts often. You got to have 3,000 words. You got to make sure that the title's right. You got to get the engagement right. And there's a lot of nonsense going on. You have to have your meta tags. It was funny. At least that myth has died now. But for the longest time, when I'd go to new prospects or clients and I talk to them and they're like, yeah, so what are you going to do with our meta tags? And I'm being like, you don't need meta tags, to be honest, to rank. And so ultimately it comes down to just know your audience. And it's kind of a philosophy I have with our sales team at WhatConverts and with our marketing that we do and when we sell. And I'm going on a tangent, but my sales manager came to me one day and says, man, I've got this guy, he can sell ice to an Eskimo. And I said, well, why would you want to do that? Well, he can sell anything. I said, no, that's the antithesis of what I think sales should be. To me, there's 2 words that you need. Be helpful. How can I help my audience to be successful? That's what you should be doing. So I apply the same philosophy to SEO. How can I help my audience? How can I help my readers? How can I add value to their lives. And if you genuinely put the value in the content, like for instance, you take a topic and it's like, okay, these people need to know something, or they need to learn something, or they want to buy something. What information can I give them that's going to help them, that's going to make it simple for them to understand, that's going to give them a solution, that's going to understand the problem? And we just cover it. Like, is there a definition we need to explain? And just be really helpful. And what you find is, by doing that and giving your audience that you want to attract what they want, Google's, and there's a few little things you need to do in SEO, just like make sure you got a keyword that people will be searching in the title. You just do that, and that article will stay there. So what happens with Google, you do need some links in it, but if you put up that really high quality content that speaks to your audience first, Google finds that they'll engage with that content. And when they engage with that content, Google picks up those signals and keeps you ranking well. So that kind of brings me on to the second popular myth nowadays, is that it takes months to get results from search engine optimization. And it can. So I'm back in the days when you could put up a page and you'd get ranked within 2 or 3 days. And then there are situations where, for competitive terms, if there's higher ranking people, it'll take you a long time to rank, because you've got to work your way up and compete. But even today, if you've got a decent site and you want to rank for content and you do a great job, you can rank within a day or two. So it's funny, sometimes we have a brand new blog article, we submit it, and by 10 a.m. that same morning, we're ranking for a topic. So it's just like that myth that it takes a long time. It can be true if there's high competition, but for the lower competition things, for something very specific, you can get ranking pretty quickly with an existing site. So anyway, there's nuances, but yeah, I just know in the SEO game, there's lots of myths. The other thing, it's just myths of business in general. Don't take too much advice from Twitter or online or these gurus on YouTube. It's crazy. When I started running WhatConverts, and you hear all this advice and you think you're falling behind, and at the end of the day, I always just take a step back and like look at in business, like what makes sense, because there's a lot of advice going on out there that's just not great advice. So it's just like, just apply logic to things, what would be valuable to people. And I think if you run on that sort of operating system, you're going to do pretty well.
So there's parts of our audience, why tracking leads determines ROI, have a reluctance to do lead tracking. The biggest thing is some business owners are, I want my phone number. Like, I've had this number for 20 years. I don't want to switch a number online, or I have other ways to track. With those businesses out there now, moving to modern day, is there something you could say to our audience on why it's so important to do real lead tracking to determine what's really working?
Yeah. So I find I don't like arguing with clients. Well, I love arguing. My heritage is Irish, and my dad's Irish, and he just loves a good argument. So, but I've learned arguing someone into a decision isn't a great way to go. So what I do is try a path of least resistance. I call it the come alongside me approach. So if you come and you argue with someone, you're sort of butting heads. And if somebody says like, I don't want to change my number and all that, I said like, yeah, I understand. I see, people, you want your number, you've used it for a long time, obviously. And I said, but what I think we should do is, what if we just start swapping out the telephone number for your paid ad campaigns? So these are people that have never seen you before. They haven't seen your number before. And now we're going to be able to track the effectiveness of that advertising. And then they're like, oh, so my normal people that just come straight to my website will see my old number? Absolutely. Yeah. And they'll only see a different number if they come from advertising? Yes. And then they're like, okay. So we start out that way, and they see the data and the insights they get from these ads. And then they're like, well, can we do that for like Google organic traffic? And we said like, absolutely. So we'll just trigger the telephone number to swap if they come from those specific sources. And then they're like, oh, before you know it, they want to track everything. because the data is so valuable. So I just found that's a great way. I call it the come alongside me approach. Don't argue, just say like, okay, great. What can we start with? You don't have to go all in. And I find as we've been doing that, so 7 years ago, it was a lot more difficult, a lot more resistance. Nowadays, people are like, okay, do you know any telephone numbers, or do you just pick up your phone and like dial what's in your contact list, or do you visit a website and click that number? And most people realize, the telephone number nowadays with the smartphones isn't as important as it was back in the day.
Yeah.
No, not at all. I mean, most people like saving a business number now is not like a common practice like before. Like, I'm going to save this under my favorite pizza place or something. Now you just search, you touch the number, and then it calls automatically.
Absolutely.
So do you see, we've had those kind of
Lots
discussions.
of those. Yep.
We don't call it come alongside me. We've had different names for it with different varying success rates and everything. But with businesses out there who try to implement this but do it wrong, what are the most common things wrong that people do or think that they're actually doing, but they're not getting all the data? Are there some common things you see businesses
Yeah, I
do
mean,
wrong?
it's funny when we get new team members to WhatConverts and we do training, and some people are confused with how dynamic number insertion works. So like even some of our new customers, they'll take the number that we give them, the tracking number, and they'll manually add it to the website. So, it doesn't do the dynamic swapping. So you're missing out a lot of the attribution. So sometimes that happens.
Actually,
Other times,
for our audience, can you just explain what a DNI, dynamic number insertion, means for the people that don't know the term?
yes, sure. So for dynamic, for call tracking, so call tracking is combining a phone call with marketing attribution data. And to do that, we need to show a tracking number when somebody comes from a marketing source. So we call it dynamic number insertion. So what happens is you have your regular telephone number on your website, the same one that you've always had. We then get you to add a tracking code on your website that allows our software to identify your number on your site and then swap it with the tracking number. So the user that comes to the website, they don't know that it's swapped, and it's done in the background. But as soon as they get there, our tracking script takes their regular number, identifies it, and swaps it with the tracking number. And then that tracking number follows that visitor to the website around for that session. So while that person's on that website, they are the only ones seeing that telephone number. So that's called DNI, the actual swapping out. Now, when they make a phone call, because that telephone number is attached to that user session, we can combine the marketing data with it and store it in our platform. So the other thing that's confusing about that is, well, what if you have 10 different people on your site at the same time? Or what if I have like 1,000 different keywords I need to track? With dynamic number insertion, it's based on how many people are most likely going to be on your website at one time. So if it's 10 people that are going to be on your website at the same time, you're going to need 10 numbers that our software manages and checks it out and checks it back in. So even if you have 1,000 keywords you want to track, we can track all those 1,000 keywords just with 10 numbers. As long as within a time slot anyway, I don't want to get too much in the detail, but you use DNI with a dynamic number pool of numbers to show a unique telephone number within the user session while they're on the site.
So what happens in a situation where there are more people accessing the website than there are numbers? So for example, let's say I run a Taylor Swift fan club and I want to sell something, and then all the Taylor Swifties around the world want to buy it, and there's 50,000 people on my site. I have a tracking service. What happens in that scenario?
Yeah, so okay, and then that's an extreme scenario, but it does happen.
Extreme, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, a more likely scenario is you send out your email newsletter, and normally you'll have 100 people within an hour to your site. So if you've got 100 people on your site in an hour, we divide by 8 to get a factor. So, you need like 8 numbers. But now you send out your email newsletter, and all of a sudden you got 200 people on your site. So what happens there? Let's say you got 10 numbers, and for a period of time, you've got 30 people. So now you got 10 numbers for 30 people. What's going to happen is misattribution. So out of those 30 people, there'll be 30 people seeing these telephone numbers. So 3 people will see the same number. So 10, 10 for 3. Okay. But then what happens is it still doesn't cause a problem if those people make a phone call. So let's say one of those 3 make a phone call, still no problem, because that marketing attribution with that user session is going to be tied to that phone number. So we'll store that. The problem comes is if those 3 people are viewing one number and 2 people make a phone call to the same number, now the marketing attribution from one of those is going to be duplicated.
Oh,
Okay. So the calls will still connect. You still get the call, but your marketing data is misattributed. So that's the only problem. And in our software, we know when that happens. So we can alert you, and you can like, oh, okay, I may need more numbers. So if it just happens every now and then, you probably don't want to add more numbers. But if it's happening on a consistent basis, you probably want to increase how many numbers you have in that dynamic number pool.
So what I like best, so we've messed around with the platform a little bit, and I'm going to explain to the audience why I think, or why we think it's important to have a tracking software such as WhatConverts. So the important thing as a business owner is I need to determine what my ROI is in my marketing. So the benefit of the platform is whether someone is coming from Google Ads, Google Organic, Facebook, Instagram, Bing, DuckDuckGo, all of those different sources or attributions. The platform then determines where those calls or where those form fills or even where the website chats are coming from. And then you could say as a business, it's an accountability tool. So you are able then to hold your marketing company accountable for the marketing that they're doing for your company, but it's also an accountability tool for the marketing company to the customer as well. And the fact that calls are recorded, so you can actually go in and listen to the phone calls, and you can use it as a training purposes to the people who are answering the phone, see how they're answering objections or answering questions, making sure that you have the ability to listen to calls. But if your marketing company too is then listening to the calls, then you could see what's taking place on those calls. So if you notice that people aren't answering questions right, and your company, your clients come to you and be like, why am I not getting a return? I'm paying you all this money for Google Ads. How come it's not yielding anything? Well, then the marketing agency is going to go and listen to the calls, and then they can turn it around back onto the client and use it as a training opportunity. So the best thing about your platform for me, it's an accountability tool, not just from your business owner to the marketing agency, but the marketing agency to their client as well.
And what we've seen too, to make it easier, certain businesses have different systems, CRM systems that they operate with, where your platform now integrates with a lot of different platforms coming online now. So if a company is used to using one thing for their putting their sales number, invoices, appointments, they can still do that and still track the data from the tracking platform.
What are your top 5 like CRM integrations?
So HubSpot CRM, Zoho, Salesforce, Service Titan, Pipedrive. If I had to take a top 5.
And if I understand it correctly, when someone uses, like, let's say Service Titan, so the call goes into the website, WhatConverts is now tracking that call. Your person at the business, the CSR, and most time if they're using Service Titan, goes in and enters all the data for that client, including what the sale amount was. That data then gets sent back into WhatConverts, and now you actually know what your ROI is, correct?
Exactly. Yeah. So you can run, like, if you spend $50,000 on ads, and then it resulted in $500,000 in sales, then it's a 10 times ROI, and your customer will keep on paying you money and keep on paying the ad bill. So yeah. But I mean, that example on the training is so key. It's doing marketing is really a partnership with your client, and you're in their business, and you're a vital part of their business. Generating more revenue, and it can get so. I mean, marketers get beaten down all the time. They have to answer questions about what's working. These leads you're bringing me, how many of them are existing customers? Or they'll fire at you like, well, I don't think the leads are worth anything. Or, there's countless ways where clients sort of beat on the marketer. And the problem for the marketer, if they don't have the data, it can become contentious. Could lose trust, and you can lose the client. So what I found is, like you said, with the training, it just gets both sides on the same page. And I find with a lot of marketers and companies, most of the leads go into a CRM, which is built for the salespeople, and the market is sort of left out of it. Yes, they do get insights and they can see it, but they can't see the revenue against their marketing. So, WhatConverts was built for the marketing side, but we get insights from the sales side because of that revenue data. So I think what you say is true. There's so many different use cases, and I've seen so many of them. But the bottom line is, the data is powerful, and if you like generate one lead that's worth $1 million, and your client doesn't pick up the phone, whose fault is that? So yeah, so with WhatConverts, you can see that, you can get that insight. So you can say to the client, like, hey, there were 10 calls, on a Friday lunchtime that just didn't get picked up. We spent $1,000 to drive these sales. We're doing our part, come to the party. And I know I'm being confrontational there, but normally what happens is what you said is the accountability. By having that accountability from the client side and your side, it builds this trust and transparency. So because I've run agencies, and I actually have a few clients still on my agency that I deal with, and I dog food our software with, I've just found that the trust and the relationship has improved dramatically. It's not second guessing each other, because the business owner doesn't want to beat down the marketer. They just want to know, are they making good choices for their business? And when they see it and they're not getting BS answers from the marketer, they're getting real data. It's like there's a lot of trust that develops, and you do that over time. And if they have a question, it's not like, well, I think. It's like, well, let's look at the data. Let's look at the leads. Our tool makes it super easy to do that. So it just takes out a lot of friction, improves relationship between the marketer and the client. So, and then also helps them improve their sales side as well, because sometimes your client just doesn't know that the sales is dropping the ball.
So with all the platforms out there for call tracking, form fill tracking, website chat, tracking, for our audience, what makes your platform better? Because I've seen the different platforms, right? We've used different platforms. We've recommended different platforms. What makes your platform stand out over your competition?
I think, well, there's a few ways I can answer that, and I think any call tracking, if you're not doing it, go and do call tracking with whoever, because you're going to get benefit out of it. So I'm not saying that they're not useful and they're not worth it. The reason I think WhatConverts is great, if you run Google Ads campaigns, and you're spending money on them, and you really need to start working with their automated bidding and feeding good data into them. So the level of your data, I'm missing the word now, but the data integrity could become super important. And with WhatConverts, we just focus a lot on the data integrity, getting the data, making sure that it's accurate. Our marketing attribution, we've been iterating on this for 8 years, and it really is solid. And people trust our marketing attribution more than they trust Google Analytics or many of the other platforms. So to us, it starts with the integrity of the data. So that's important. The next thing is tools to access that data. And that's where you start seeing the separation between us and others. The other companies, they do calls, but they may not do forms, or they may not do chat. We do it all. But also, even if those other companies do it, their data is siloed. And when it's siloed, it's very difficult to get insights, because one customer may make a phone call and a form. And with us, it's easy to say we have a customer journey and we tie it all together. So that's one thing that separates us really well. So our data tools, the data we gather, the integrity, and that we can all have it together in one place. And then from there, it goes on to reporting, like getting insights from that data. And our reporting, every software you look at says they offer advanced reporting, and they don't. So it's at the advanced reporting with us, you can build any report you want. So if you want to know what keyword, ad, and landing page combination generated the most leads, you can get that from us. If you wanted to know, like you wanted to run, like show me the landing pages from Google Organic that resulted in more than $10,000 in value, you can run that with us. Or show me the top landing pages or the top campaigns with the highest ROI. With our reporting, you can do that and you can build it from scratch. With the others, they really do struggle with that. So those are the main things. When it comes to integration, we have the data we have in our API and our integration. It allows you to do a lot. Any data you see in our platform is available to the CRM, including custom fields and additional data fields. So we've really gone a long way to make sure that we get data integrity, that you can access the data in WhatConverts, that you can report on that data to get insights, and then that you can make that data available to other platforms. So you're not siloed just inside WhatConverts.
Now, for our audience listening in and they're starting to feel more comfortable with the idea of tracking leads to determine a true ROI, WhatConverts actually offers a trial system, right?
Yeah, so we offer a full 14-day trial, and if you join us and you go through onboarding, we'll extend it to 30 days. So especially I hope you guys have a link or something that you can share with your audience. And then with that,
we'll share a link.
Yeah, if it comes through there, just go through an onboarding. We want you to go through onboarding because we just want to make sure the setup's right, and people have questions. We want to make sure it's set up for you. And then once you're set up, we start the trial then. So you're not taking a trial.
To be clear, there's no cost to onboard then with clients wanting to try the platform?
No.
Okay.
Our philosophy here is because I've been doing this for a long time, I don't want customers that are not a good fit for our platform. I've done it long enough, and it's not a good experience for anyone, and it costs us more money than it's worth. So we want you to do a trial to determine, is this a great fit for you? And even if you're an agency and you've got like 50 clients, I think you guys have been through our sales process. We tell you, we don't want all your clients. We want you to bring one client to us. We want you to verify that what we're saying is correct. Only once you're happy with our product, you've used it, and you can see it's a good fit for you guys, only then will we help you migrate the rest of your clients. And we do that for a reason. We want happy clients. We want to make sure that our product is a good fit for them. We don't believe in selling a product that isn't great for your use case. And I mean, Jeremy is the other co-founder. In the early days where people would start a trial and then, we do request a credit card, and that's just to keep out the people that have no intent on doing the right thing. We ask that, and then even if they start and they don't use it, and they come back and they're like, yeah, you've charged me, will you refund? We always refund. In addition to that, if we see an account has been running for 2-3 months and then there's no usage, we will contact them and say like, hey, you're not using our product. Would you like us to close out your account and refund your money? So that's the philosophy we operate on. We're not just all about growth. We want to have the right growth. And we just believe that if you do that, for the right people and offer the best service and the best tools, you're going to win. And we do feel we're winning.
And I will have to say that I've never heard any company that offers a free trial
with a full onboarding.
With a full onboarding. And then if you're not using the platform, they actually reach out to you and even offer a refund. I've never heard that. Right. In my 23 years of marketing, this is a first for me.
Yeah.
So I think your company has integrity in what it is that you do.
Yeah, and it's funny that you say that. We have our core values. It's innovation, initiative, and integrity. And we take the integrity part close to heart because we deal with data, privacy, HIPAA. We've got dentists and doctors as clients. We just want people to know that integrity is important to us. So we get opportunities where data aggregators want to buy data from people like us. And we don't have any third-party data aggregators that buy data from us. We just, you're trusting us with your data. It's your data. We're not selling it to anybody else. So yeah.
It's just simply doing the right thing, right? So.
Yeah. And you feel good doing it, I think.
Well, it was great having the CEO of WhatConverts join us for our podcast, kind of do a deep dive behind the curtain of what tracking leads in an ROI has. We are going to post the link for people that want to do the trial instead of a 14-day trial, a 30-day trial with a full onboarding. And the clock doesn't start until you're fully set up. So
Correct.
thanks for that, Michael. But on behalf of our sponsors, A Advanced Services and Fuse Networks, my name is Galen.
And I'm Joe.
Coming at you from the Creative Block Studios in Seattle, Washington. Thank you, Michael,
Thank you.
for joining us on this episode of the Ask Valor Masterminds podcast.
Well, thank you guys. This has
thanks,
been
everyone.
fun. Thank you for listening to me.
Yes, sir.